My name is Nora Callahan. I am 27 years old. The reception hall smelled like gardenias and expensive perfume. My brother Patrick's wedding. 300 guests. Crystal chandeliers. A 12-piece orchestra. And my mother, standing at the microphone, smiling that perfect porcelain smile, about to destroy my life. She tapped her champagne glass. The room went quiet. She looked radiant. She always did when she had an audience. "What a beautiful evening," she said. "My son Patrick, our pride and joy, married to his wonderful Megan." She paused. The crowd swooned. "And now, a special announcement. Our daughter Nora has generously offered to gift the newlyweds their dream home. A house on Birchwood Lane. Fully paid. From her inheritance." The guests erupted. Applause. Cheers. Patrick grinned at me from the head table. That smug, golden grin I had seen my entire life. I had not offered anything. I had not agreed to anything. I stood up. My chair scraped the marble floor. The sound cut through the applause like a knife. No. 300 people stared at me. My mother's smile didn't crack. It froze. My father set his glass down. His jaw tightened. And Patrick, my golden brother, mouthed 2 words at me across the room. "Don't you dare." I said it again. "No, that money is mine, and I'm done pretending it isn't." What happened next put me in a courtroom, cost my family their reputation, and gave me the life my grandmother always wanted me to have. But before I tell you how it all unraveled, like and subscribe. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? I grew up in Ridgewood, New Jersey. If you've never been there, picture tree-lined streets, big colonial houses, and people who measure their worth by their lawn care. Our house was on Maple Ridge Road. It was a 4-bedroom colonial, with black shutters and a red front door. Every Christmas, my father hired a company to hang lights. Not because he loved Christmas, because the Petersons across the street had lights, and Richard Callahan did not lose to the Petersons. My father was a financial advisor. He managed other people's money for a living. He wore the same style Navy suit every day. He drove a black Mercedes. He shook hands firmly and looked people in the eye. He was the kind of man other men admired and their wives trusted. At home, he was a different person. Not violent, not loud, worse. He was cold. He ran our family like a portfolio. Everything was about returns. Every decision was an investment. My brother Patrick was his blue-chip stock. I was the penny stock he forgot he owned. Patrick could do no wrong. He played lacrosse. He got a C average. He crashed his first car at 17 driving home from a party. My father laughed it off. Boys will be boys. He's just living life. I got straight A's. I was on the debate team. I won a statewide writing competition my junior year. My father glanced at the trophy and said, "That's nice, Nora. Can you clear the table?" My job was simple. Exist quietly. Support Patrick. Don't cause problems. Don't cost money. Don't take up space. My mother, Diane, was the architect of our image. She was beautiful in that specific New Jersey way. Blonde highlights, tennis arms, Chanel sunglasses, even in January. She chaired the town's charity auction every year. She hosted book clubs where no one read books. She was warm and lovely, and generous to every single person in Ridgewood except me. When I was 16, I auditioned for the school play. I got the lead. I was so excited I ran home and told her. She was arranging flowers in the kitchen. She didn't look up. "Oh, Nora," she said, "that's a lot of time commitment. Won't that interfere with helping me with the auction? Besides, you know Patrick has his lacrosse banquet that same weekend. We need to be there for him." I dropped out of the play. I always dropped out of the play. I learned young that our family had a simple structure. Patrick was the sun. My parents were the planets. And I was the distant moon, only visible when they needed me to reflect his light. The one person who saw me, who really truly saw me, was my grandmother, Ruth Callahan. She was my father's mother, and she was nothing like him. She was sharp, funny, and brutally honest. She had been a real estate investor in the 1980s, back when women didn't do that. She bought properties in Brooklyn when everyone said she was crazy. She wasn't crazy. She was a genius. By the time she retired, she was worth millions. She didn't trust my father with money. Ironic, since he managed money for a living. She told me once, sitting on her porch in Montclair, sipping iced tea, "Your father knows how to grow other people's money. He just doesn't know how to keep his hands off it." She was right. When I was 21, My grandmother sat me down. She was 83. Her mind was razor sharp, but her body was slowing. Nora, she said, I'm leaving you my properties, all 6 of them. They're in a trust. Your father will not be the trustee. I've hired a firm, Ellis and Graff. They manage the trust. Your father and mother have 0 access. 0. I stared at her. Grandma, that's too much. It's exactly enough, she said. It's enough for you to never need them. She grabbed my hand. Promise me something. Don't let them turn you into furniture. You're not a lamp, Nora. You're the whole damn house. She died 8 months later. Peacefully, in her sleep, in her own home. I cried for a week. My parents were annoyed. She was old, Nora, my mother said. It was expected. Move on. The reading of the will was a disaster. My father sat in the lawyer's office and listened, as the attorney from Ellis and Graff explained that Ruth Callahan had left her entire real estate portfolio, 6 properties in Brooklyn and Manhattan valued at roughly $4.2 million, in a trust for her granddaughter, Nora Callahan. Not to the family, not to Patrick, to me. My father's face turned the color of old brick. This is unacceptable, he said. She wasn't in her right mind. The attorney, a woman named Miss Tran, looked at him over her glasses. Mr. Callahan, your mother updated this trust 3 times over the past decade. Each time, she passed a cognitive evaluation administered by an independent physician. The trust is ironclad. We'll see about that, my father said. They challenged it. They hired their own lawyer. It took 11 months. They lost. The trust stood. But they never forgot. And they never forgave me for it. For the next 4 years, I lived a double life. I finished my master's degree in social work at Rutgers. I worked at a nonprofit in Newark helping families in crisis. I earned $42,000 a year. I drove a used Honda. I rented a small apartment in Montclair, near where my grandmother had lived. I didn't touch the trust. The properties were managed by Ellis and Graff. The rental income went back into the trust. It grew quietly, like a garden I was saving for someday. At home, nothing changed. I still went to Sunday dinners. I still showed up to Patrick's events. I still played the role. Why? Because a part of me, the small, stubborn, stupid part, still hoped they would change. Still hoped my mother would one day say, Nora, I'm proud of you. Still hoped my father would look at me and see me. They didn't. Patrick, meanwhile, became a worse version of himself. He worked at my father's firm. He had a corner office he didn't earn. He drove a BMW my father leased for him. He dated a string of women who looked like my mother. Then he met Megan. Megan was beautiful, rich, and exactly what my parents wanted. Her father was a surgeon. Her mother was on the board of the Met. The engagement was a production. My mother planned it like a military campaign. Venue, caterer, florist, photographer, videographer. The budget was enormous. My father kept saying it was an investment in the family's social standing. 6 months before the wedding, I was at Sunday dinner. My mother brought out dessert. She had that look. That sugary, dangerous look. Nora, darling, she said, we've been thinking. Patrick and Megan need a home. And you have all those properties just sitting there. My fork stopped. What do you mean? We think, my father said, cutting into his cake without looking at me. That you should sell the Birchwood Lane property. It's a 3-bedroom brownstone. Perfect for a young couple. Give it to Patrick as a wedding gift. The Birchwood Lane property was worth $1.1 million. It was a brownstone my grandmother had bought in 1987. She had renovated it herself. She used to take me there when I was a kid and show me the crown molding. I picked this wood myself, she'd say, running her hand along the doorframe. Good bones, Nora. Always look for good bones. No, I said. My mother blinked. What? That property is in my trust. It's not mine to give away. It absolutely is, my father said. You are the beneficiary. You can direct the trustee to sell it. You can choose to gift it. That's how trusts work, Nora. I'm a financial advisor. I know how trusts work. And I'm the granddaughter of a woman who specifically designed this trust so you couldn't touch it, I said. The answer is no. The table went silent. Patrick leaned back in his chair. He crossed his arms. So that's how it is, he said. His voice was casual, but his eyes were hard. Grandma leaves you a fortune and you can't even help your own brother. She left it to me, I said. Not to you. There's a difference. The dinner ended in cold silence. I drove home shaking. I was proud of myself, but I was terrified. I knew them. They didn't take no for an answer. They just changed the angle of attack. Over the next 6 months, the pressure was relentless. My mother called weekly with new tactics. She cried. She guilted. She invoked my grandmother. Mom would have wanted Patrick to have a home. No, I said. She specifically made sure he didn't get one. My father sent me spreadsheets. Actual spreadsheets. Projections showing that the Birchwood property was underperforming. He suggested I sell it and reinvest the capital. He happened to know a great advisor. Himself. I forwarded every email to Miss Tran at Ellis and Graff. She called me after the third one. Miss Callahan, she said, your father is not subtle. These emails are a paper trail of attempted financial coercion. I'm saving all of them. Keep sending them. I did. Then the wedding came. October 12th. The grand ballroom at the Montclair Club. 300 guests. My mother had spent 8 months planning it. The flowers alone cost more than my annual rent. I wore a navy dress. My mother had wanted me in dusty rose to match the bridal party, but I wasn't in the bridal party. Patrick hadn't asked me. I wasn't surprised. The ceremony was beautiful. I'll give them that. Megan looked stunning. Patrick cried, which shocked me. Maybe he had a heart. Maybe it was for the cameras. The reception was elegant. The food was incredible. The orchestra played Sinatra. Everyone was happy, golden, glowing. I sat at a table near the back. I was next to a great aunt I'd met twice and a cousin who spent the whole dinner on his phone. I was invisible. Just the way they liked it. Then my mother took the microphone. She made her announcement. The Birchwood Lane house. A gift from Nora. The crowd cheered. Patrick grinned. Megan clutched her new husband's arm, already imagining the crown molding. And I stood up and said no. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. My mother recovered first. She laughed. A light, tinkling, fake laugh. Nora's joking, of course. She's always been the funny one. I'm not joking, I said. My voice carried. I didn't need a microphone. I have not agreed to give anyone any property. This announcement was made without my knowledge or consent. My father stood up. His face was dark. Nora, he said, his voice low and dangerous. Sit down. We are not doing this here. Actually, I said, this is exactly where we're doing this. You made a public announcement about my private assets without asking me. So I'm making a public correction. Patrick's face twisted. He stood up. His chair knocked into the table behind him. You selfish, ungrateful, he started. But Megan grabbed his arm. Not here, she hissed. She was smarter than him. My father walked toward me. Every step was deliberate. He got close. Too close. He grabbed my arm. Hard. His fingers dug into my skin. I could smell the whiskey on his breath. You are going to sit down, he whispered. You are going to smile. And tomorrow, you are going to sign those papers. Or I will make your life a living hell. I looked him in the eye. You've been making my life hell for 27 years, I said. I'm used to it. He squeezed harder. I felt the bruise forming. I pulled my arm away. I grabbed my purse. I walked out of the grand ballroom. 300 people watched me leave. No one followed me. No one asked if I was okay. I got to the parking lot. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't find my keys. I dropped them twice. I heard the door open behind me. It was Patrick. He was furious. His face was red. His bow tie was loose. You just humiliated me at my own wedding, he said. His voice was shaking. You humiliated all of us. Mom is crying. Dad is livid. Megan's parents are asking questions. Are you happy now? I found my keys. I didn't answer. He stepped closer. You owe us that house, he said. Grandma was senile. That money should have gone to the whole family. Dad says you're sitting on millions while we struggle. I turned around. Struggle? You drive a BMW. You have a corner office you didn't earn. Your wedding cost more than most people's houses. You don't know what struggle looks like, Patrick. His face changed. Something ugly crossed it. You're just like her, he said. Grandma was a bitter old woman who thought she was better than everyone. And you're the same. A bitter, lonely, selfish nobody. I got in my car. I locked the doors. He slapped the hood. The sound was sharp. I flinched. I drove away. In my rearview mirror, I saw him standing in the parking lot, his tuxedo jacket flapping in the October wind. looking small. I drove to my apartment. I locked the door. I sat on my couch in the dark. My arm was throbbing where my father had grabbed me. I pulled up my sleeve. 5 purple fingerprints. His hand, printed on my skin. I took a photo. I don't know why. Something in me, maybe my grandmother's voice, told me to document everything. Then I opened my email. 3 new messages. The first was from my mother. Subject line, "You have ruined Patrick's wedding." The email was long. It called me ungrateful, selfish, manipulative. It said my grandmother would be ashamed of me. It ended with, "If you don't agree to transfer the Birchwood property by Friday, your father will be taking legal action. He has consulted with an attorney. You will lose." The second email was from my father. It was 1 sentence. "You have until Friday, Nora. Don't test me." The third email was from a name I didn't recognize. David Callahan, Patrick's new email address. He had changed his last name? No, he had always had the family email. The email said, "Just sign the papers. Stop being difficult. You don't need 6 properties. We need 1. This isn't complicated." I read them all. I read them twice. I screenshotted everything. I forwarded everything to Miss Tran. Then I did something I should have done years ago. I called the police non-emergency line. I filed a report. I told them my father had grabbed me at a private event. I told them I had bruises. I told them I had photos. The officer asked if I wanted to press charges. I said not yet, but I want a record. The officer said, "That's smart. A record matters." I hung up. I opened my laptop. I logged into the trust portal. I hadn't checked the detailed financials in months. Miss Tran handled everything. The properties were managed. Tenants were stable. Income was reinvested. But something my father said at dinner months ago had been nagging me. "I know how trusts work, Nora." Yes, he did. And that scared me. I opened the financial statements. Property by property. The first 5 were fine. Rental income, maintenance costs, everything matched. Then I opened the 6th file, the Birchwood Lane property, and my stomach dropped. The rental income for Birchwood Lane had been declining for 18 months. That didn't make sense. It was a brownstone in a prime Brooklyn neighborhood. Rents were going up everywhere. I dug deeper. I found a name on the management documents I didn't recognize. Ridgewood Property Solutions. That wasn't Ellis and Graff's management company. I searched the name. Ridgewood Property Solutions was registered in New Jersey. The registered agent was a woman named Karen Liu. I didn't know her. But the business address was familiar. It was the same office building where my father worked. My hands were shaking. I kept digging. Ridgewood Property Solutions had been collecting rent from the Birchwood Lane tenant for 18 months. $6,200 per month. That was $111,600. The money had not been going into my trust. It had been going into an account managed by Ridgewood Property Solutions. I couldn't see that account, but I could see the paperwork. Someone had forged a property management transfer. Someone had redirected the rental income away from my trust and into a shell company connected to my father's office. They hadn't been asking me to give them the property. They had already been stealing from it. I called Miss Tran at 11 p.m. She answered on the 3rd ring. "Miss Callahan, is everything all right?" I told her what I found. The line went quiet for a long time. She said, "Don't touch anything else. Don't call your parents. Don't email them. I'm calling our forensic accountant right now. I'll be at your apartment at 8 a.m. Bring everything." I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table, and I went through every document I had access to. I found more. The shell company had also taken out a small line of credit using the Birchwood property as partial collateral. Arshawen. The signature on the application was not mine. Someone had forged my name. I printed everything. I organized it. I put it in a folder my grandmother had given me years ago. It was leather, old, with her initials embossed in gold. R.C. Miss Tran arrived at 8 sharp. She was not alone. She brought a man named Mr. Okafor, the forensic accountant, and a woman named Miss Reeves, a criminal defense attorney. They sat at my kitchen table. They went through everything. Mr. Okafor worked through the financial trail. Miss Tran reviewed the trust documents. Miss Reeves took my statement. At 10 a.m., Miss Tran looked at me across the table. "Miss Callahan," she said, Your father has been operating a fraudulent property management company. He has diverted $111,600 in rental income from your trust. He has forged your signature on a line of credit application for $200,000. That is wire fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement. These are federal crimes. I stared at the folder with my grandmother's initials. I thought about her voice. Don't let them turn you into furniture. What do we do? I asked. Miss Tran said, we have options: civil suit to recover the money, or we refer this to the FBI for criminal investigation. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Both, I said. Miss Reeves nodded. Good. I was hoping you'd say that. That week moved fast. Miss Tran contacted Ellis & Graff's security team. They confirmed the unauthorized management transfer had been done using forged documents. They filed a breach report. Mr. Okafor traced the money. The $200,000 line of credit had been used to pay for Patrick's wedding. My father had used my property, my grandmother's property, to fund the very wedding where my mother announced I was giving that property away. They stole from me to throw a party celebrating the family that had spent my whole life treating me like I didn't exist. I filed for a restraining order against my father. The bruise photos were entered as evidence. The judge granted a temporary order within 48 hours. My mother, my father, and Patrick were all named. No contact. No communication. On Thursday, 5 days after the wedding, Miss Tran and I walked into the Ridgewood police station. We filed a criminal complaint. We handed over every document, every email, every screenshot. The detective, a man named Alvarez, looked through the file. His eyebrows kept rising. He looked at me. Your own father? He asked. My own father, I said. He referred the case to the FBI field office in Newark. Identity theft, wire fraud, bank fraud. The federal charges alone carried up to 30 years. The following Tuesday, 2 FBI agents visited my father at his office. I wasn't there. I didn't need to be, Miss. Tran told me later that he cooperated initially, thinking he could talk his way out of it. He was a financial advisor, after all. He knew the system, but the system knew him better. They seized his computers. They subpoenaed his bank records. They found everything. My mother called me from a number I didn't recognize, violating the restraining order. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Her voice was shaking. Nora, please. Your father made a mistake. We can fix this as a family. Please don't do this to us. Think of Patrick. Think of what people will say. Think of what people will say. That was always the priority. Not what they did. What people would say about what they did. I saved the voicemail. I forwarded it to Miss Reeves. My mother was arrested 2 days later for violating the restraining order. She spent 1 night in county jail. The woman who had chaired the Ridgewood charity auction for 12 straight years spent a night on a metal bench in a holding cell. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel joy. I felt the absence of guilt. That was enough. Patrick tried a different approach. He sent Megan. She showed up at my apartment building. She didn't get past the lobby. The doorman called up. I told him to tell her I wasn't available. She left a note. It said, Nora, I know you're angry, but Patrick is your brother. Family forgives. Can we talk? Family forgives. I thought about that. I thought about 27 years of being invisible. I thought about my grandmother, who saw the future clearly enough to build a fortress around my inheritance. I thought about the fingerprints on my arm. Family forgives, I wrote back. But first, family has to be sorry, and being sorry means accepting consequences. She didn't write again. The investigation took 4 months. During that time, I lived my life. I went to work. I helped families in crisis, families who were dealing with real poverty, real violence, real loss. The irony was not lost on me. I came home to my apartment. I cooked dinner. I read books. I started writing again. Not fiction. Not other people's stories. My own. Miss Tran recovered the stolen rental income in full. The line of credit was voided after the bank confirmed the forged signature. My trust was made whole. The Birchwood Lane property was transferred to a legitimate management company. The first month's proper rent came through, $6,200, directly into my trust where it belonged. My father was indicted on 3 federal counts: wire fraud, identity theft, bank fraud. His attorney negotiated. He pleaded guilty to 2 counts. He was sentenced to 14 months in federal prison and 3 years of supervised release. He was disbarred from the financial industry. The man who managed other people's money could no longer manage a checking account. My mother was not charged federally, but the civil suit hit her hard. She was named as a co-conspirator in the financial scheme. The evidence showed she had known about the shell company. She had signed documents. The settlement required her to liquidate her personal assets, jewelry, a vacation account, her car, to contribute to the restitution. Her charity friends had already abandoned her. The Ridgewood social scene moves fast when scandal arrives. She became a ghost in her own town. The same invisibility she had imposed on me for 27 years found her. Patrick lost his job at my father's firm because there was no firm anymore. The clients fled. The partners dissolved the company. He tried to get hired elsewhere, but his last name was all over the local news. Financial advisor's son implicated in trust fund fraud. Nobody wanted a Callahan on their letterhead. I heard through Miss Tran that Patrick and Megan moved to a rental apartment in Edison. A 2-bedroom. No crown molding. No brownstone. No Birchwood Lane. Megan's parents stopped speaking to them. The surgeon and the Met board member did not want their daughter associated with a federal fraud case. I wondered if Megan still believed that family forgives. I didn't move. I stayed in my apartment in Montclair. I kept it small. I kept it mine. But I did one thing. I went to the Birchwood Lane brownstone. My grandmother's brownstone. I hadn't been inside in years. The tenant had recently moved out. I walked through the empty rooms. The crown molding was still there. The wood my grandmother had picked out herself. I ran my hand along the doorframe. "Good bones," I whispered. I decided to keep it. Not sell it. Not rent it out again. Not yet. I cleaned it up. I painted the walls. I bought a desk and put it by the window that overlooked the street. I started going there on weekends to write. My grandmother's house became my writing room. 6 months after the sentencing, I was sitting at that desk. The afternoon light was golden. The street was quiet. I opened my laptop. I had been working on something for months. A book. My story. All of it. I typed the last paragraph. I saved the file. I sat back. I looked at the room. My grandmother's crown molding. My grandmother's good bones. My phone buzzed. A text from Miss Tran. "Just checking in. How are you?" I typed back. "I'm good. I just finished something." My life now is made of choices. Small ones. Every morning, I choose what to eat. I choose what to wear. I choose who to call and who to ignore. These sound like nothing, but for 27 years, those choices were made for me. Now they are mine. I don't hate my family. Hate is a leash. It keeps you tied to the person on the other end, and I have spent too long being tied to people who didn't deserve me. I don't forgive them either. Forgiveness is a gift, and they never learn to say thank you. I am sitting in the brownstone. The window is open. I can hear Brooklyn outside. A car horn. A child laughing. Someone playing music too loud from an apartment above. I pour myself a glass of wine. It's a good bottle. Not expensive, just good. I hold it up to the light. At that wedding, my mother raised a toast to my obedience. She raised a glass to the quiet daughter who would smile and sign the papers and disappear. I raise my glass now, not to her, not to them, to my grandmother, who built a fortress and trusted me with the key, and to myself, for finally using it. If you've ever been overlooked, underestimated, or treated like you don't matter, hit that like button and subscribe. Tell me where you're watching from. Your story matters. And so do you.